Hello there, welcome back to Max's Cards and Dice Dugout. This is episode 241. And like most of us in this hobby community, tabletop sports gaming with cards and dice, I'm always on the lookout for some new game to try out. And one recently caught my eye, and that's a game called Pitcher of Record Baseball from Short Season Games, and the creator of or the proprietor owner of Short Season Games is a man named Brien. He has many games on his website, and they're all for free, all quick playing type of games. There's baseball, basketball, no football as of yet, I don't believe, curling, stock car racing, several different games. I'll put the link here and also in the description for the video for the Short Season Games website. But as mentioned, the game that really caught my eye was Pitcher of Record Baseball. Now, it's a quick playing game that generates a final score for you in under 10 rolls, I'm going to guess. Probably under 5 a lot of the times. But it does have a few interesting wrinkles that really caught my eye. So, as you can see from the thumbnail for the video, we're going to play a demo between the Baltimore Orioles and the Chicago White Sox. These are teams from 1976. I believe there are 4 seasons as of right now available on the website, and I thought 76 was a good season to pick, considering this is the 250th anniversary year for the United States. So let's take a look at the cards that you use in this game. Now, you don't have to print these and cut them out like I did. You can work with them right from the PDFs that they come on. And really, the only card you need to play the game, or 2 cards you need to play the game, is this one. This card for both teams, which I believe is referred to as the game card. Okay, so we're going to look at that for Chicago first. So, of course, it tells you the name of the game, Pitcher of Record Baseball, 1976 AL from the American League. Chicago with the W in parentheses for White Sox. Gives you their record and what position they finished in what division they were in. So they finished 6th in the AL West. Now, and I hope you can see this all right. Okay, so now you start getting into the data that's on the card. This first number here, this number 1 with home, that is their rating to have a walk-off win when they're playing at home. And this 3 is their rating to give up a walk-off win when they're on the road. Now you have 2 columns of numbers that you generate runs from, and that's for home and away, so a total of 4 columns. You have in red here runs allowed by your pitcher, and then you also have runs scored by your batters, and then the same for away. And you get that from a D20, so you need a D20 to roll for this, and then you take your number of runs from here. Now you'll see that this says 4+ down here near the bottom, and that's because there's a special rule that's optional that we'll talk about in a few minutes. So, okay, so this is where you get your runs scored from, and then there's also a fielding rating here, which may generate some unearned runs. Okay, so that's the game card. All right, and then you also, the more advanced version of the game, you use these pitcher cards. So we'll look at Baltimore's here. Once again, same information up at the top. But you're going to get a list of 5 starting pitchers plus an other starting pitcher, which would be all the other pitchers that started for Baltimore in 76. You're going to get their numbers, their name, their number of starts, their ERA, and their die modifier. And this is one of the wrinkles I was talking about that makes this game a little bit more interesting than another like quick final score type of game. So I think the best way to do this is probably just to kind of go through the playthrough. I'll talk my way through it, and we'll go from there. All right, so the first thing it says to do once you've chosen your teams is to pick your starting pitchers. Now, it's important that you pick your starting pitchers before you start the game, and you're going to see why in a second. All right, so I've picked Jim Palmer and Ken Brett. They're going to be the two starters, all right? So we'll look at Palmer first. All right, so his die modifier is a -3. Now, as you can see in this column here, it says pitcher / rating. Well, I didn't write down the -3 yet because we got to check to see if the starting pitcher is going to be more influential on the game or the relieving pitchers for Baltimore are going to be more determinant as to whether or how many runs are scored, okay? And the way you determine that is by a D100 roll. So you can see the starting pitchers here for Baltimore are listed as a 1 to 80. So anything other than an 81 to 100, we're going to use Palmer's rating. Okay, and we roll a 38. So we will use Palmer's rating of a -3. So I'm going to write that here, -3. Okay, now had it been an 81 or higher, we would have used the relievers modifier, and that would be a -1. Okay, so that's why I didn't fill that out right away. Now, maybe this area should be a little bit bigger that you can, write both down. What I was going to do is if it would have been the relievers, I was going to circle that number just so I knew that it was coming not from Palmer, but from the relievers, okay? And we'll do the same thing for the White Sox. Like I said, Ken Brett's getting the start, and they're a 1 to 78. We roll a 19, so also Ken Brett's rating is going to be in effect, and he's a -2. Okay, so got the pitchers' ratings, and we're ready to roll for runs scored. Okay, now you can use one D20 and roll it 3 times, or you can use 3 and then you do all 3 rolls at once. Now, as you can see on the score sheet here, we got a B that's in blue, which is for the batter, P in red for the pitcher, and green for fielding. So we're just going to roll, and I'll show you how this works. So we're doing Baltimore first. Okay, so we got an 11 on the blue die, and Baltimore's card away on a roll of an 11, and that's, we're looking in their blue run scored batter column. On an 11, they're going to score 2 runs. So we're going to write 2 runs from their batters in here. Okay, so we'll put that aside. And now the other 2 we're going to get from Chicago's cards. All right, so we got, for the pitchers, we got a 7. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot one thing. Brett was a -2, and we said that's an 11, so it became a 9. So I might have made a mistake already. All right, so let's go back to Baltimore's runs scored. On a 9, it's still 2 runs. Okay, so we take Brett's -2, subtract it from the 11 that we rolled, but it still ends up being 2 runs. Okay, now for from Chicago's home runs allowed by their pitchers, we rolled a 7. But Ken Brett, as I already mentioned, is a -2. That becomes a 5. So it looks like they're going to give up 1. Pitcher's going to give up 1. And then the last one you look at is the fielding. And that comes also from the defensive side of things. All right, so we rolled a 4, and there's no modifier when you're checking the fielding rating. So a 4 was rolled. Chicago's defensive rating or fielding rating is a 15. So that means any 15 or less, there's no unearned runs. If this had been a 16, then we would have rolled the D20 again and determined how many unearned runs they gave up. So that's a 0. So Baltimore scores 3 in the 9th inning. All right, so now we're going to do Chicago. We'll do the same thing for Chicago. Going to roll all three at once. And let's see. So we got a 9, a 2, and a 10. All right, so the 9, Jim Palmer, is a -3, so that 9 becomes a 6. So we're looking at the batting home for Chicago. And that 9 becomes a 6, and that's going to be 1 run. So one run, is attributed to the White Sox hitters. Now we're going to look at the Red pitching rating. And that's a 2. Palmer's a -3, so that's a -1. You can't go any lower than 0 on here. So we look at Baltimore's away pitching runs given up on a 0, which is less than 1. So I guess it is 0. Well, actually, no, it's a 1. Can't go below 1. Palmer doesn't give up any runs, at least from his pitching. So that's a 0. Excuse me. And the last one we check is the fielding. That like I said, we do not modify that by the pitchers. And we look at the fielding for the White Sox. They're also rated out of 15, so that 10 is less than that, so no unearned runs. And they score 1. Now, as you can see here, the home team gets the opportunity for a potential walk-off win. So I haven't written this down yet because we're going to check and see if the White Sox can score any runs in the bottom of the 9th to either tie the game and force it into extra innings or to win the game. Okay, so the way you do that is from these 2 cards, and I hope you can see them here. All right, so Baltimore's the road team. This is their rating to give up walk-offs on the road. That's a 1. Chicago's rating is also a 1. So, that's a total of 2. So the only way this is going to happen is if we roll, and I'll roll the batter one, a 1 or a 2 on the 20-sided die, and Chicago scores 1 run. And we'll keep doing that until either they don't score or they win the game. Okay, so they need a 1 or 2 in this first roll. They get a 17, so they don't get anything in the bottom of the 9th. And they score 1. And the final score is the Orioles 3 and the White Sox 1. And that's it for this game. Like I said, there are a few other things that could come into effect that did not in this game, like the unearned runs from the fielding area. Rolling a natural 20, which of course would be before any modifiers are applied. Rolling a 20 on the die gives you an opportunity for some bonus rolls. So let's just say when I did the roll for the White Sox, I got a 20 on the red die and a 20 on the green die. That's 2 natural 20s. So this provides the opportunity for the game to turn into, one of the teams scoring a lot of runs. So the way you resolve that is any natural 20s, after you do your modifications and determine how many runs were scored in these columns, you also roll a D6, and in this case it was 4. And what you would do is you would multiply that 4 by the number of natural 20s you rolled, and that would be an 8-run bonus. So, something that doesn't happen too often, because it's very unlikely to roll 2 or 3 20s at the same time, but it is possible. And that gives you the possibility of having that occasional high-run scoring game. But it didn't happen in this case. It was just a 3-1 win for the Orioles. So, as I mentioned, this game is available at Short Season Games, and that link will be in the description. Check it out. Looks pretty interesting to me. You could possibly use it when you're doing a replay project to generate some scores for some other games. And there's some other things you can do with it as well. I'm actually kicking around the idea of a project with this, but we'll see. And like I said, these games are for free. You can buy the guy, you know, a cup of coffee to support his work, but he's doing this, you know, it's a labor of love type thing. So that's going to do it for this episode. If you hung out with me, I'd like to thank you, and I'll be back again in the near future with another video. And until then, take care.